Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast, where we explore what it truly means to live with intention, calm, and clarity in a fast-paced world. What if the secret to a richer, more fulfilling online experience isn't more content, but more humanity? Over the past few weeks on Go Slow to Go Fast, I've been in powerful conversations with Kelsey Green about digital detoxing and Colin Corby about digital minimalism, both exploring how our devices, our constant inattention, and the sheer volume of screen time are quietly reshaping our relationships, our focus, and our sense of presence. Those conversations with Kelsey and Colin, they keep circling back in my mind with this core question: what is this all doing to our ability to listen, to stay focused on what actually matters, to be fully present with the people right in front of us? We talk a lot about screen time, productivity, and digital boundaries, and those matter deeply for our health and overall well-being. But those interviews really got to me. They got me thinking about something slightly different and maybe even more subtle. When we do find ourselves online, when we're in those spaces, when we are on Instagram or other social media outlets, what happens to empathy when so much of our connection happens online? Because when we're overstimulated, distracted, and constantly switching attention, we don't just lose focus, we lose patience, we lose curiosity, and we lose our ability to pause. And that's where this idea of digital empathy comes into play. I mean, for the longest time, I used social media apps to stay in contact with my friends and family who were across the country or across the world. And it was a way for me, having moved across states, to stay in touch with those I loved or those I missed or those I haven't seen in years, reconnecting with friends from high school or college, just staying in touch with people. And if you're a friend with me, I could not see you for 5 years, but we'll pick back up where we left off. That's how my friendships are. But I find in the social media or social outlets in the digital media space, it can be a little different, especially now when so much have come into these social media spaces, where I think 5 years ago, most of these spaces were places to escape, to have fun, to look at cats on skateboards, like my husband likes to say. But now it's really amping up and people are becoming very divided in these spaces. And I think this requires us to have even more empathy when we're online, instead of hiding behind a facade and either ignoring or escaping and not involving ourselves in conflict, or to lean into those spaces when those conversations do get tough. And so that's where this idea of digital empathy comes into play, not as another rule or restriction, but as a way to bring our offline values, kindness, presence, and humanity into the online space. And most of us didn't step into the online space looking for a fight or trying to be critical or combative or reactive or emotionally exhausted, right? We're looking for, frankly, we're looking for ways to connect or to escape and have some fun or brevity. So, or maybe you're looking for inspiration or looking for a recipe. There's lots of reasons why we're going online these days. And I'm doing research on the differences between Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And it seems like more and more people are going to YouTube to get an answer for a question that they have. And so they're going to YouTube for a specific reason. They might go to Instagram or TikTok to escape, or to find inspiration, or have a laugh, or get away from it all, just, watch some mindless videos with cats on skateboards. But if you came for inspiration, you came for learning or for connection, then most likely you're a leader, you're an educator, and you're thoughtful. And I hear the same thing over and over again. I feel drained after being online. I overthink what I post. I regret engaging, even when I meant it well. And you know what? That's not a personal failing. It's a signal, because our nervous systems are built for embodied connection. We need that tone, the facial expression, the pauses, the breath. And you know what? Online spaces are just removing all of that out of the equation. But, they also don't remove the responsibility for us to be human, especially as AI becomes more prevalent. So it requires us now, in this day and age, to be even more present with intention, not less. So, digital empathy, it isn't about being agreeable, it's not about avoiding hard conversations or silencing your voice. It is okay to disagree. It is okay to have an opinion that is different from those you love or admire. But it's also about bringing the same amount of awareness, restraint, and kindness in the online space that you would naturally offer in a face to face conversation. And that's the difference between reacting and relating. Digital empathy asks, would I say this if we were sitting at the same table? It also asks, am I listening to understand or responding to defend? So when you're asking yourself these questions, for example, is my goal connection, clarity, or control? If you ask yourself that question, that pause alone before you respond to something online, somebody's response or post, that pause alone will change the tone of everything that comes next. And I have been guilty of this. I have responded to emails in my past that I'm not proud of. And so I've been thinking about this. Not only do we need to set boundaries in the digital space for the time that we are on devices, on screens, the time we are focused on a certain task, we need to set those boundaries so we still have plenty of time for spending our days with chunks of time with the people that we love, doing activities that we love, and sometimes together and sometimes alone. So we need to have those boundaries, but we also need to have that mental framework of asking ourselves to pause before we respond or react. So here's the uncomfortable truth: online spaces reward speed, certainty, and outrage. Curiosity does not trend. Empathy doesn't go viral. So we're trained when we go into these online spaces, and it's subtle and it's constant, to react. Now, I love bomb when I go into online spaces. I make a point of going into the social media spaces where I post, and I find at least 5 people a day that I can respond to with hearts and encouragement and empathy. I really don't invite in conflict. I don't invite in a reactive conversation. But when I do come across something like that, I will respond with a thank you for asking, or thank you for taking the time to share that comment, or, whatever. I will speak to that person's comment in the same way I will. And I've trained myself to take a breath and put my phone down if I really don't have it in me at that time to engage. But if it's something coming to me personally, I need to respond the same way I would in person. And like I said, I haven't always done that in an email. I can probably count the number of times on one hand that I'm not proud of my responses in an email. So it has happened, but it hasn't happened that many times. But when it has, I have not been proud of it. So I have learned that I need to pause and remember to respond in the same way I would if I were in person. And young people need to hear that. And, 30s and 40s and 50 somethings need to hear that. We are human, and we should be responding as if we are human and not reacting in a way that we wouldn't be proud of. So we're trained subtly and constantly to react, to correct, to perform confidence instead of practice, and instead of practicing understanding. But reaction creates friction, and friction over time creates fatigue. So digital empathy interrupts that cycle. So, practical shifts that you can make right now: bring that offline empathy into your conversations or your posts or your reactions into the online space. Let me offer a few small, powerful shifts that you can try immediately. Slow the response. Like I said, you can put down your device. You don't owe anybody immediate response. A thoughtful pause often leads to a wiser reply. Or, you know what? None at all. Nobody can make you respond to them in person or online. You have choice in this. You always have a choice. Number 2, read for meaning, not threat. Before responding to somebody online, ask yourself, what might this person be protecting, fearing, or hoping for? That question alone softens the exchange. Number 3, name humanity. Simple phrases like, I hear what you're saying. That makes sense given your experience. Or, you know what? I hadn't thought of it that way. That restores dignity to the conversation. You can also, number 4, disengage with integrity. Empathy does not mean endurance. Choosing not to engage is sometimes the most self-respecting option available. And that's not disengagement from humanity. It's discernment. So for parents and leaders, especially those of you that influence others, littles and bigs, how you show up online matters more than you think. Your tone, your pause, and your willingness to stay grounded all teaches those who are watching. Digital empathy is a form of quiet leadership, of slow leadership. It creates psychological safety, even in the comment sections. And in today's world, that is rare. The goal of online connection is not to win arguments or prove intelligence or performative. The goal is connection without depletion. And that happens only when we bring our offline values, curiosity, respect, and kindness into our online behavior. So here's a question to sit with. What would change if you treated every online interaction as a real human moment, not content, not noise, and not something to manage? Digital empathy doesn't require more effort. It just requires more presence. And presence, online or offline, is where real connection lives. If this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone you know who's craving a healthier relationship with the digital world. And remember, you don't need to speak louder, react faster, or post more to matter. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, online or off, is lead with humanity. And until next time, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.